I think the enduring ideal of equality in America and the rights that are embedded in the Constitution is an ideal of aspiration, an ideal that there are opportunities that are available to people beyond where they might have initially seen themselves going.
The ideals and the dream of the revolution, the principles behind it, connect very much to my family's immigrant story and so many stories that I've heard from other families of being willing to put so much on the line for that shot, that life will be better in the future. And maybe not even necessarily for yourself, but for those who will come after you.
I believe that a lot of my spirit of activism actually comes from my knowledge of the American Revolution. My grandfather was a huge history buff. Like, he would take me around to these different sites, and as I would learn about the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, it sung to me. I mean, it hit me. I saw myself wanting that.
All of the work that I've done to provide opportunities for people who generally have been dispossessed and underrepresented has been driven by my belief that social justice is achieved through an ongoing sense of commitment to revolution, to change.
We are still fighting to have an actual democracy in America. I mean, the story is not finished. The revolution began the fight to bring about full democracy, to pursue happiness and live the lives that you aspire to achieve, but we've not reached it yet. And quite frankly, it's not just for black people. It's really for anyone who's not in the top 1% in this country, which we're coming to see now. So it's funny that a bunch of rich white men got really upset that their money was being messed with, and now we're fighting to make sure that everybody has access to the opportunity that they themselves wanted.
I think it's an unfulfilled promise, right? I mean, it's like if you have this quest that you've never actually been able to accomplish, right? And it's why I don't want to separate it from Haiti or from France or even from, you know, the African countries liberating themselves in the 70s, right? I mean, so much of that came from these ideals of being born free. You know, and I also want to shout out the indigenous Americans, right, who also gave us some ideas around democracy. I mean, really, when we break down the American Revolution, I mean, can you do it without Toussaint Louverture, right? Can you do it without the Iroquois Nation? I'm not sure, and I think those are the conversations of the revolution that are still happening today.
While we focus on the fact that there is the movements for change, we tend to not really recognize the strength of the resistance against that change, right? And there has been resistance at every facet. And you have to ask, what is it that's being asked for that is so threatening? Why are human rights for all a threat? What is it in America that links freedom of some with unfreedom of others?
So I think vigilance is very much a part of, you know, of the struggle towards liberation, freedom, the best ways for societies to live. You can't think that this is a one-time salvation. This isn't a laying of hands. That's not how societal change happens, right? It happens by us, you know, agreeing to do something different and then figuring out what it takes to do that different thing.
In our city in particular, we still see woven throughout every policy conversation the trauma of racism, of racial conflict that were never addressed head on. And that dates back for our country to our very founding documents. And you can't just keep your head down and pretend that this hasn't impacted nearly every aspect of how we structured our society and our economy.
2014, Michael Brown was the last straw, I would say, for me in terms of simply sitting on the sidelines and voicing my discontent, but not doing anything about the problem that I saw at hand. And so myself and Shakia Scott, who I went to high school with, started something called the Boston Police Camera Action Team because we wanted to ensure that there was some measure of accountability with police officers. And so we pushed for body cameras. And now there are body cameras on almost all of our police officers because we would not be deterred. But knowing that we are following the example of those who came before us, Certainly, that is something that weighs on me to this day.
The American nation state is still becoming. We're continuing to change in terms of our demographic constituents, in terms of our views and beliefs. The Constitution itself has been modified, thankfully, many times. And hopefully, if we continue to evolve in our shared humanity, it may evolve many times more.
I don't think we'll ever get there. I think perfection is the enemy of the American project, actually. I think there's a humility in that statement that it's our job as mortals and as self-governing citizens in a constitutional democracy to grope toward further perfection. When we assume that we can get there or have gotten there, we're in trouble.
When there are tremendous barriers or long-standing challenges, no single person is going to be able to undo or dismantle the systems that got us to this point. What is possible is for a coalition of people to come together and from the grassroots up, reshape what we're aiming for.
I find it helpful to move away from the notion that the revolution gave us a set of documents and a set of ideals that we haven't lived up to. I think it's more helpful for us to understand that those documents were the product of struggle and conflict and disagreement. They are authorities in a sense, but the greater authority and the thing that binds us together is the fact that we're still having those same arguments today.